Hello and welcome to this Sophos Certified Training course for XG Firewall. This is Module 8. Wireless network solutions for use in businesses need to be able to provide a fast, reliable, and uninterrupted signal for the entire office. In an office environment, it is important that wireless networks provide strong security options and are able to be easily deployed and centrally managed. In this module, you will learn how to deploy and centrally manage Sophos access points on XG Firewall and configure wireless networks and hotspots. Wireless networks managed by Sophos XG Firewall can provide either limited or full access to both the Internet and resources on the internal company network, with all of the same security as computers that are connecting from a physical network connection, as well as being able to deploy wireless access points in the main office. You can also deploy and manage wireless access points in branch offices through a RED connection. Guests can connect to a separate wireless network which can be broadcast by the same access points as the internal company wireless networks. Guest networks can provide Internet access using either the same or different web filtering policies as the internal clients. The Sophos XG Firewall can protect the internal networks from being accessed by computers connecting to guest wireless networks, even though they are using the same access points as devices on the internal network. The XG Firewall can manage any mix of Sophos access points. The AP15 is a desktop access point designed for small offices and home offices, and it has replaced the older AP10. The AP55 is a replacement to the older AP30 and AP50. The AP55 comes in two form factors, the standard AP55, which is a desktop model, and an AP55C, which is a ceiling-mounted model. Both models have dual radios, 1 gigabit Ethernet connections, and support up to wireless AC speeds. The AP100 tops our range of access points and can provide up to 1.3 gigabits using 802.11 AC on the 5 GHz frequency and up to 450 megabits on the 2.4 GHz frequency. It also is available in multiple configurations, including the AP100 desktop model, the AP100C, which is a ceiling-mounted design, and an AP100X, which is a weather-resistant outdoor unit. The older models still work with the XG Firewall and can be used in conjunction with any number of our current wireless access points. A wireless network is a configuration that is deployed to access points to allow clients to connect to the wireless environment. There may be a couple of wireless networks on the XG that were created as part of the setup of the device. These can be used, modified, or deleted depending on your needs. In order to create a new wireless network, begin by navigating to Protect Wireless Networks and click on the Add button in the top right. Begin by entering a name for the wireless network and optionally a description. The name and description are only seen by users that have access to the admin console. Enter the SSID for the wireless network. This is the name of the wireless network that is publicly visible. It is used to identify the network to users that will be connecting their devices. The security mode defines the type of encryption to use. The supported modes are WPA2, WPA, and WEP. Best practice directs us to use WPA2 over any other type of encryption, and WEP should be avoided unless the clients do not support any form of WPA. Client traffic can be handled in three ways: routed to Sophos XG Firewall using a separate zone to isolate it from the internal network, routed to the same network the access point is connected to with bridge to AP LAN, or routed to a specific VLAN. This will be covered in more detail in the following slides. Select the zone for the new wireless network. The default zone will be Wi-Fi, but can be set to any zone that has been created. Finally, assign the new wireless network an IP range. Please note that depending on the client traffic option that is selected, the last few options may not be required. For example, if bridge to VLAN is selected, instead of zone and IP address, it will ask for the VLAN ID to bridge to. In the advanced settings of a wireless network configuration, a number of optional settings can be modified. For WPA or WPA2 security modes, we can select the type of encryption we would like to use between the client and the access point. This can be AES, which is the most secure, or TKIP, or a compatible mode which supports both AES and TKIP. The frequency band setting allows control over which radios are enabled in the access point. Options include enabling the 2.4 GHz radio, the 5 GHz radio, or both radios simultaneously. Time-based access allows an administrator to turn on and off the wireless network by configuring a schedule to use. This allows administrators to limit the use of the wireless, for example, to only business hours, to ensure that unauthorized users are not attempting to connect after the workday is over. Client isolation makes it so that connected clients connected to the wireless network cannot interact with each other. This is useful in guest networks as it prevents potentially malicious users of the guest network from interacting with other guest users. The Hide SSID option makes it so that the SSID of the wireless network is not broadcast to the public, and thus someone would have to know the SSID to join the network. MAC filtering has two available options. These are restricting access to a specific list of allowed MAC addresses or blocking access to a specific list of MAC addresses. By using MAC filtering as an additional security measure, an administrator can help protect their wireless network by only allowing a certain list of users or by blocking known malicious MAC addresses. Let's now take a look at the different security modes that are available in the XG Firewall's wireless network configuration. We begin with Bridge to AP LAN. The Bridge to AP LAN configuration is used when traffic needs to be routed to the network that the access point is directly connected to. With Bridge to AP LAN, the traffic is never sent to the XG Firewall by the access point. Instead, it simply takes the traffic and drops it right onto the LAN on which it is connected. The XG Firewall is only used for management of the AP and to collect logging information from the access point. Next is Bridge to VLAN. In a Bridge to VLAN configuration, wireless traffic is tagged by the access point, allowing upstream switches or the XG Firewall to identify that the traffic is associated to a specific VLAN. This allows the wireless network to extend that VLAN wirelessly. The access point must be connected to a trunk or hybrid port on the switch so that it is able to read the VLAN tags and route the traffic correctly. Again, The XG firewall still communicates with the access point for management and to collect logging, but it may not necessarily be involved in routing the traffic. Note that to broadcast a bridge to VLAN wireless network, the access point must be configured to use a VLAN for management traffic. The bridge to VLAN options only become available once you have set a VLAN for management. Lastly, we have the separate zone configuration. Separate zone allows an administrator to segment the wireless traffic without using a VLAN, which is often very useful in smaller environments that may not use managed switches or have a complex network environment, but still want to secure wireless traffic, for example, for guest access. With a separate zone configuration, all traffic is fed into a VXLAN tunnel by a wireless interface on the Sophos XG firewall. From there, the XG firewall will treat it like any other traffic coming in through an interface. By default, the interface is called WLAN followed by a number. This traffic must then be routed to any allowed networks, either internally or externally, and rules need to be created to allow this traffic. When configuring a separate zone, some additional steps you may need to perform include creating a DHCP server for the wireless network on that interface, adding the interface to the allowed networks for DNS if it is a guest network, and creating firewall and NAT rules that include web protection, IPS policies, and any other security modules to protect the users. Fast BSS, or Base Service Set, transition allows the key negotiation and the request for wireless resources to happen concurrently in order to enable fast and secure handoffs between base stations to deliver seamless connectivity for wireless devices as they move around. This is supported on WPA2 personal and enterprise networks only. The clients must also support 802.11r as well. To enable fast transition, use the option in the advanced settings of the wireless network configuration. Access points will announce support for both WPA PSK Enterprise and FT PSK or Enterprise, so they can perform normal roaming for clients which are not capable of fast transition. For troubleshooting purposes, it is very useful to understand how the XG firewall finds and registers access points for use with wireless protection. When an access point is connected to the network and gets an IP address from a DHCP server, the AP then tries to connect to the XG firewall using the magic IP address of 1.2.3.4. which is a valid internet address. When wireless security is enabled, Sophos XG Firewall will redirect all packets destined for the address 1.2.3.4 to itself and reply back to the access point that sent the request. If the XG Firewall is not in the path to the internet, for example, it is not the default gateway for the network, then a special DHCP option to select the target Sophos XG firewall, option IP0xEA, the wireless security magic IP, can be used. By default, the XG firewall will configure and pass this information if it is configured as a DHCP server for the network. When a Sophos AP is connected to the network, the AP uses DHCP request broadcasts. The AP, acting as a DHCP client, uses a parameter request list in its DHCP discover message, which requests certain parameters from the DHCP server. If the DHCP server provides the special parameter, code 234, Wireless Security Magic IP, it will be used as the IP address to connect to when starting the control connection. For more information, see Knowledge Base article 119131. To connect an access point to the Sophos XG firewall, first physically connect the access point to a network connected to the firewall. The access point will discover the Sophos XG firewall after getting a DHCP address. Once it does, it will display as a pending access point within Protect Wireless Access Points. After accepting the access point by selecting the checkboxes and clicking the Accept button, it will move from a pending access point to an active access point. Note that the access point may go offline after being accepted. This is normal, as it may perform a firmware upgrade directly after being accepted in order to match the firmware of the firewall. This normally takes between 5 and 10 minutes. Sophos has a range of 5 appliances that include built-in wireless, which provide all of the same functionality as using a Sophos access point without the need for extra hardware. Unlike other firewalls with built-in wireless, however, coverage can be extended by connecting other Sophos access points as well to extend wireless coverage. All of the appliances with built-in wireless have 3 external antennas which support 3x3 MIMO, except for the XG85W, which has 2 antennas supporting 2x2 MIMO, supports both 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz frequencies. However, as they only have one radio, they can only use one of these frequencies at a time. The XG85W supports 802.11 ABGN up to 300 megabits. The XG105W and 115W support up to 450 megabits. And the XG125W and 135W support up to 1.3 gigabits. The XG125W and 135W will also support 802.11ac on the 5 GHz frequency up to 1.3 gigabits. This will be able to fall back to using 802.11n for clients which do not support the AC standard. If the built-in wireless is unable to cover the whole office, it can be extended by connecting additional Sophos access points and using them just as you would for appliances which do not have built-in wireless. There are no significant differences between using the built-in wireless and a Sophos access point. The main items of note are, because the built-in wireless is part of the hardware and not connected through the network, you do not need to add any networks to the allowed interfaces. The built-in wireless will appear as a local Wi-Fi device in the access point list. It cannot be deleted from this list, and it will always be active. When working with built-in wireless on an XG firewall, there is no need to accept the built-in access point. It is a local device that is always active as long as the wireless protection feature is active on the device. It is named Local Wi-Fi 0, and the name cannot be modified. Once you have set up the wireless networks and deployed the access points, we then need to determine which access points will broadcast which wireless networks. An access point can broadcast up to 8 networks per radio, so dual radio units, such as the AP55, can broadcast up to 16 wireless networks. To begin broadcasting wireless networks, edit an access point in the XG firewall. In the Wireless Networks section, click on the pick list and select any number of wireless networks that you would like this access point to broadcast. Make sure to click the Apply button and then save the changes. Repeat the process for any additional access points. If you would like to configure multiple access points at the same time, they can be added to an access point group, and the wireless networks can be added to the access point group. When creating a guest wireless network that does not contain any server, there are certain network services that are required in order for clients to be able to function and access resources. The first of these is DHCP. The XG firewall can act as a DHCP server for any network that is connected to one of its interfaces. This is especially useful for wireless guest networks where a company would not normally deploy any sort of servers. To begin, navigate to Configure Network DHCP and click the Add button under the Server area. Give the new DHCP server a name and select the interface for which it will be servicing requests. Enter the range of IP addresses that will be handed out to clients and the subnet mask to go along with it. Then, select what the default gateway for the connection will be. If you tick the checkbox, it will be the interface that was selected at the top. Otherwise, you will be able to manually enter an IP address into the box. DHCP also has the option to assign DNS servers, so that clients will be able to resolve fully qualified domain names. Without a DNS server defined, DHCP clients will not be able to access the Internet easily. A WINS server can also be assigned to the clients if WINS name resolution is still being used for devices in the local network. In order for the XG firewall to respond to DNS requests from clients in a zone, access to the service needs to be allowed in the Device Access section. Under the Network Services heading, select the zones for which the XG firewall will respond to DNS client requests. To create a wireless network and then assign it to an access point, begin by navigating to Protect Wireless Networks and click on the Add button in the upper right corner. Fill out the information needed for the new wireless network, including the name of the network and SSID, the security mode, and in this example, the pre-shared key, and how it will handle the traffic. For ease of management, an access point group can be created, and wireless networks can be assigned to the group. Any new access points will appear in the Pending Access Point list and must be accepted. Once this is done, a label can be assigned, and they can be added to a group which will add any wireless networks as well. Advanced options such as dynamic channel scanning and schedules for when to scan can be applied to the access point. Once the access point updates its configuration from the XG firewall, its status will change and it will come online. In many situations, the users connecting to your wireless networks may not be company employees, but instead guests or other users that do not have credentials in your local network. The normal option is to create a guest network for these people and allow them to connect to it in order to prevent them from accessing company resources. In many cases, this works well. However, if the wireless guest network is in a populated area, there is a good chance that the password for it will get out and people will connect to and abuse that guest connection. In order to prevent this, we can implement hotspots, which require an additional step of verification in order to gain access to resources such as the Internet. Note that hotspots are not only for wireless networks, but instead can be applied to any interface that a user might connect from. Let's take a look at the configuration of a voucher-based hotspot. From Protect Wireless Hotspots, click on the Add button to create a new hotspot. Begin by entering a name for the hotspot and optionally a description to identify the purpose of the configuration. Next, we select the interfaces for which this hotspot will block incoming requests. When a client in the listed networks attempts to pass through the XG firewall for any reason, such as internet browsing or to access a server, the hotspot will intercept the request and ask for verification. We can then secure this connection by taking advantage of the different policies that we may already have in place. We can apply an application policy, web policy, IPS policy, and traffic shaping policy to any users that connect to the hotspot. If the original connection to the hotspot was HTTP, we can redirect the client to an HTTPS site before proceeding. Now, we can select the hotspot type. In this example, a voucher hotspot will require a voucher be provided to the client that they enter into the hotspot portal before proceeding. A voucher definition must be provided, as well as how many devices can be used with that voucher. There is also administrative users that need to be defined. These are the users that are allowed to create vouchers from the user portal. If the hotspot type is voucher or password of the day, we can still have the client accept a terms of use for legal reasons. If the hotspot type is set to terms of use, this action is removed. And finally, we can redirect a client to a specific URL after they complete the hotspot verification. Even if the client originally attempted to access a specific page, this option will send them to the listed URL, ignoring their original request. The voucher administrators would need to create vouchers from the user portal. After selecting a hotspot to manage, they need only fill out the simple form to begin creating vouchers. Whether they create them one at a time as needed or in batches, from the user portal, these voucher administrators can create and then monitor the vouchers with ease. Included are options to print the vouchers and even add QR codes to make entering the information easier if the client devices support them. At the bottom of the voucher page, any created vouchers will be listed and a voucher administrator can see if they have been used, how much traffic or time has passed, and even delete the voucher to revoke access immediately. Complete the following tasks in Lab 8. Task 8.1, create and test a hotspot. Prior to completing these tasks, you must have completed all steps up to the end of Lab 7, Task 7.4. Now that you have completed this module, you should complete Module 9, Remote Access.